Okay, so this is a game that came out over 10 years ago, and a lot of people are polarized about what to think of Mass Effect 3 as a whole. A lot of people love the first two Mass Effect games that came out in '07 and in 2010. And Mass Effect 3 was a huge deal before it came out and it ended up becoming the best selling game within its series. I believe it managed to reach at least 7 million copies in terms of sales. And the thing is, like, almost everything about Mass Effect 3 looked great before you actually played through it and all that stuff. Like the graphics, the level designs, the RPG elements were all cool, and there were like minor things that people complained and criticized about, which one of them being like General Shepard having like multiple options in terms of like romance. Like, I guess same-sex marriage was kind of was a thing that was a bit controversial within the game, but America and the world was different back then, and I feel like now that wouldn't be as much of an issue, seeing how much the world has changed. But one of the main issues with Mass Effect 3 that a lot of people had were how the game had multiple endings. It had like 5 different endings, and all of them, I think, Shepard dies in some way, shape, or form, and it was just depressing. And like, to a lot of people like, they felt like they got punished for completing a game where they're supposed to be rewarded. And I do feel that kind of left a black mark on the series for the most part, but I still think that Mass Effect 1 and 2 are pretty good games. And Andromeda, even though it did sell like at least like 2 million or whatever, it was not as popular as like the first 3 games in the trilogy. And a lot of people feel that after Mass Effect 3, the series has become like an afterthought for the most part, at least as it related to the teens decade. And some people look at this and they think that it's sad because Mass Effect 3 had the potential to be a game that stood the test of time a decade later. And I do feel that it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to kill off a character that the series has been built around since 2007, and then try to do a story without him for the most part in Mass Effect Andromeda. And a lot of people feel like at this point the series is dead, and even if there is a new Mass Effect game that comes out in the future, it's not going to be as good as it once was. But to be fair, the shooter genre for the most part was more popular back in like the late 2000s, early teens than I think it's ever been for the most part. I mean, the shooter genre is still very popular today, but I see more people leaning towards RPGs and action adventures and stuff like that, because I look at action adventure games like the Spider-Man game from 2018. That was one of the best-selling games for the PS4. And people are just more into like action adventures and RPGs, and there's still a lot of people who are into shooters because it's fun. But I think at this point, the Mass Effect series is not as popular as it once was, similar to that of Halo, even though the Halo Infinite game from 2021 was one of the best games that we got within the series in a very long time. Halo as a whole is not as popular as it once was in the like late 2000s, early teens. And I feel like Mass Effect, a Mass Effect has not been popular or as popular since like the early teens. And I do feel that Mass Effect 3 is a game that had the potential to be a lot better than what it was, but it's definitely not a bad game. It's like somewhere in between. It's a game that had a lot of potential to be better than what it was, but then it fell below a lot of people's expectations in terms of what they got. I think, the main issue was just the campaign mode for the most part. Everybody loved everything else about the game, like the online multiplayer game mode and like, everything else that I talked about earlier with the graphics and the the options in terms of dialogue and all that stuff. But yeah, Mass Effect 3 is. I'll just say this: I don't think like people would put Mass Effect 3 above a game like Halo 4 in terms of overall quality, but that's something that a lot of people would probably debate about, and people would probably say, well, Mass Effect 3 was more successful than Halo 4 on a commercial level, and that could be true to some extent, but the thing is, I think Halo 4, another game that was released back in 2012, it stands the test of time better than Mass Effect 3 did when it was first released.